My name is Melissa Cerrone, and I am the program manager for the Office of Arts and Culture, the City of Sacramento. And I am here today to provide a brief overview of the Capital Region Creative Corps' City Workforce Program. And this mini webinar is really designed to help applicants determine whether this program is right for them, and if so, how to navigate the application process. So first, I want to explain a little bit about what Creative Corps is and what we're doing here. The California Creative Corps is a statewide program. It's about a $60 million program. It's a pilot, and it's serving every county in the state of California. And the goals of the program across the state are two major goals. One is it is an economic recovery and workplace development program. So it's really a program to help bring artists back into the workforce and develop new opportunities for artists to work. And it's also a media outreach and engagement campaign, which means it's really about looking into some core areas and helping spread the word, get messages out there about some critical issues here in California. And our program is the Capital Region Creative Program, which means it doesn't only touch Sacramento County, but we really are spreading ourselves pretty wide on this geographically. We are doing programs in El Dorado County, Yolo County, Sacramento County, Alpine County, and Solano County. So we're really covering a wide geographic area. But the program I'm going to talk to you about today is really focused on the city of Sacramento. But anybody could apply from any of these regions for this program. This is a really important piece of the work. So this program's meant to focus on 4 targeted areas that are issues of concern for California. And we want you to pay close attention to these areas because they really should be elemental in your decision about whether to apply for this program or not. The 4 areas that we want to focus on are public health awareness, and it's really public health awareness around COVID-19 issues, but it could be health issues and mental health awareness, anything having to do with COVID-19. Public awareness related to water and energy conservation and climate mitigation, also including emergency preparedness, relief and recovery. Civic engagement, which would include election participation, but any other type of civic engagement. And then finally, social justice and community engagement. So these are the 4 critical areas that the whole state of California is working on. And these are the areas that we're going to focus on for this workforce development program. So the program overall had 2 components. The first component was grants to nonprofit organizations, artists, collectives, and units of tribal and local government. We just awarded those grants yesterday, and those grants were in the amounts of $117,000 and $300,000, and they went to organizations to do campaigns that would be working cross-sector with other types of organizations. I'll talk a little bit more later about cross-sector work, but that was really the major component, was the grant component. But we wanted to add something else that was really specific for artists, and that was called the City of Sacramento Artist Cohort, or the Workforce Development Program in the City of Sacramento. And that was really to provide opportunities for artists, individual artists, to come into the city and work temporarily, but in full-time benefited jobs in the city of Sacramento. So we have devised this program so it is sort of multifaceted, and this is the program we're focusing on here today. So what is this city workforce program? As I said, it's a temporary program, but for full-time positions in city government. It will be for approximately 12 months. So all of this grant money that we've received from the state of California needs to be spent by next September, I believe. So we're looking to put people in positions from somewhere from either August to July or September to August of next year. So about a 12-month term. We say we're going to have up to 5 positions offered. It's really going to depend on the need and the desire for other departments to have positions in city government, but we do have funding for 5 positions. They're going to be under the general guidance of the Office of Arts and Culture. So this will be really a true cohort of artists who will work in their separate departments, but they'll also come together periodically and work really closely with the Office of Arts and Culture to make sure that we're sticking to what the program is meant to be and that everybody feels supported and everybody is able to do their work. And as I said, you'll be working for a department engaged in one of the 4 focus areas. So it's not just in any department of city government. We really need to focus on what the grant is meant to be, which you'll have to be working in one of those areas. It really does cover a lot of what the city is already doing, but you want to make sure that whatever you're focusing on is going to be in one of those 4 primary focus areas. And I really want to talk a little bit about sort of how artists are working in a program like this. It's not necessarily to bring artists to come in and, you know, paint murals or have artists come in and write poetry for a particular department. It's really about centering artists' voice. And when we talk about centering artists' voice, we're talking about having artists who are involved in the beginning of any process that is happening. So whether it's engagement or outreach or developing messages, that the artists aren't just coming in to illustrate the message, but they're coming in to be part of the process in developing the message. Artists would be co-generators of the work, again, so they're not just interpreting, but they're helping to create the content of the work. Artists can be facilitators, so they can be at community events or meetings, and really push for deeper meaning in the conversation. We think that artists' voice is really important in areas like that. Artists are great community organizers, and they would be used to reach out through their networks or through the networks of the department that they're going to be working with, but help organize communities around some of these really critical issues. And last but not least, storytellers. Artists are great storytellers through multiple medium, so they can translate these co-design messages to the communities and share them out. I have talked a little bit about cross-sector work, and it's really important in all the work we do for the Creative Corps. So I just wanted to be sure that we talked a little bit about what cross-sector work is. It's often hard to wrap your head around this concept if you haven't done it before. But in this case, when we're talking about a cross-sector project, we're talking about when a department would come together with an artistic voice to collectively focus their expertise and resources on a complex issue that's of importance to the community that they serve. So artists working in other areas and other fields and other departments really listening to the way an artist would interpret a process. So just to give you a little example of how this could work, and this is not necessarily a project that we have available, but I just wanted to use this as an example of what it could possibly be. So the city has an Office of Climate Action and Sustainability, and they have initiatives that they're working on. So I'd ask you to think about how an artist could help them with their goals of outreach to communities, developing water conservation campaigns, supporting their carbon neutral efforts, and advancing their work in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So these are all pieces that are important to the Office of Climate and Sustainability, and they're also areas that an artist could really have a voice in helping shape messaging around all of these areas. So how could an artist, for example, employ graphics? How could they use film or video, performance techniques, or poetry and creative writing to reach audiences with messages and inform policy by getting input from the communities as well? And here's just an example of something that someone, an artist did, and this comes from London, and it's King's Cross Station in London. And this is just a tiny piece of a really long, involved billboard, which is very graphically engaging and strong, and it gives information about renewables and carbon offsets, but it's in a very public space. And it's just sort of a way that that city has used artists in some of their messaging campaign. But really, that's just one example and not necessarily something that you'd be doing, but want you to see what that could look like. So keys to success in applying for a position like this. We really want you to think about these things before even beginning an application, because it's just important to think about what this would be. It's not a grant. Again, this is an actual position in city government. So first and foremost, we'd want to make sure that you feel like you have a strong interest in and involvement in one of the or more of the focus areas. Your connection to those focus areas would be really important. Flexibility in how you work. It is a full-time job, and we know that artists often have many things going on. So would you be able to work in the way that a city department would want you to work? Would you be able to incorporate the hours that you'd be working, the schedule that they would want you to work in? How flexible can you be in the way that you work that could accommodate a department? An interest in collaboration with the community and with government. Again, not for everybody. This is a really very specific interest. And if you like the thought of working with government and you like the thought of working with community, this could be a good match for you. If you have a curiosity in how local government works, this is an opportunity to learn from the inside out how different departments work, how they gain information, how they spread information, and you'd be getting a lot of resources for government. But again, you'd have to have an interest in that. A desire to serve the community. Obviously, this is an important piece. So if your work really does incorporate community, or you've just had an interest in working more with the community and serving community, this might be a good spot for you. And as I said, ability to work a full-time schedule. We know this might be one of the most difficult things for somebody to be thinking about when they're looking at this position. So again, does this something that at this point in time would fit your schedule during this 1-year period? So I just want to go in through the application process very quickly. You're going to be applying online through the City of Sacramento Open Jobs. The website for the employment website for the city is cityofsacramento.org, and it's /HR career opportunities. So once you get to that site, you would be clicking on Open Jobs. And then you'll see near the top of the list of open jobs, a listing for Arts Program Assistant. And that's where you'll find the job description, the ideal candidate statement, and the duties and responsibilities of the job and how to apply. I suggest you read everything before beginning the application, really familiarize yourself with what it's asking, and really think about how you want to apply. And if this is right for you. There is a green apply button on the top right that you can click on to apply. And then once you complete the application and the supplementary questions, so there is both a separate application and then there are a few additional questions. And any additional documentation that they ask you to provide, you can submit it, and then it'll go to the HR department for their initial review. When you look at the application, I wanted to go through this a little bit because when you look at some of the language, it may feel a little bit disconnected from what you might be used to as an artist if you haven't gone through sort of a city job application process before. The responsibilities you'll see, there's a big laundry list, but these are some of the things that it includes: assisting with programs, researching and preparing reports and materials, responding to public questions and requests, maintain databases, monitor budgets, assist with outreach, and provide customer service. So those are all the elements that would be in a very standard arts program assistant job application. And you might look at that and say, well, I'm not sure that I've done any of that before. But then if you really sort of dig in deeper and look at what all of those things are, customer service, outreach, budgets, assisting with programs, doing reports and research, all of those things are very likely things that you as an artist would have done in your artistic practice. So I don't want you to be sort of put off by any of that language. Look at it as just sort of a basic level of activity that you might be asked to do. You might not be asked to do it, but these are just all qualifications that we look for when somebody's coming to a job. So again, just focus on those and think about how you probably would have done those in either another position or in the artistic practice that you have. It is going to ask you about your education and experience, and you are going to have to certify this. And this is just something that is very standard for this job category with the city. There is no sort of substitution for this kind of educational or experience requirement, but there are a couple of different ways you can go about it. So it is going to require a couple of different things that you can choose from. So if you have 2 years of prior experience, and then also 15 semester units in a related field, and we'll talk about what those related fields are. That's one way to fulfill the education requirement. Another way is if you only have 1 year experience in the arts and an associate's degree or 60 semester units. That's another way to fulfill the requirement. And then finally, if you have a bachelor's degree from an accredited college or university, in marketing, communications, public relations, arts administration, community development, or a related field. And if you feel like it is in a related field, feel free to submit the application and you would qualify under that. So again, you don't need to have all of those things. It's sort of a pick your choice here, but there is, I have to say, there is some minimum education requirement that we cannot get around. So please make sure that you can fulfill one of those. Otherwise, you won't meet the basic eligibility for the grant. And then next, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the supplementary questions that are part of the application. And again, these are really particularly important in determining, again, if this work is right for you. So the first question is going to be asking you about your relationship to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how you incorporate it in how you work. And this is an important value in all of the city departments. And so we'd like to know how you've supported it or implemented it in your work. So this is part one of our supplementary questions. The next is about neighborhood engagement. And that asks, what creative artistic methods would you suggest to engage communities? And this is meant to give you an opportunity to talk a bit about your art form, how you normally work, and how your unique vision and process could be used when you're out in the community. So again, it's an opportunity to really expand upon your experience and talk about how you might use that in community work. And then finally, the last question gets to this perspective of balance. As a city employee, you'd have to follow city policies and procedures that may sometimes feel in conflict with your role as a community artist. And when you're out in the community, you'll represent not only yourself, but the city of Sacramento. So how do you feel about this? And how can you bring your roles, these two roles together? How can you still feel like you're fulfilling your role as a community artist and doing what you need to do to be fulfilled as an artist, but also manage that with what the city would be asking of you? So here's the application dates and information. The application opened on June 3rd. It's going to close on June 24th, so that's very soon. So please, if you're thinking about it, get your application in. Again, you can find the application really easily. Just go to the City of Sacramento's job site or governmentjobs.com, careers/Sac City. and look for the arts program assistant. Just so that you know what the process is going to be, as soon as we hit the deadline and all the applications are received, there is sort of a first pass by the HR department. They look for, again, the basic eligibility. Have you completed the application, fulfilled all your eligibility requirements? And if you've done that, then that entire list or batch of applicants would be submitted, and it would go to a review panel who would be reviewing applicants to see how many applicants they feel like they want to interview for the position, who might be the best matches. Again, we don't know the departments yet, so it's hard to decide what the matches are now until we know the departments one would be working in and what their priorities are. But when we do that, there'll be a round of interviews. Probably by the time an applicant reaches that point, we'll be asking for work samples. So we'd want to see some demonstration of your art form. What does it look like? What is your past work been? And we would be asking for that. And then set up a series of interviews with a review panel. Again, I'm not sure if it'll be multiple interviews or one interview, but we will try to move the process along. Again, the ideal hope is to hire somebody in August. If this person can't begin in August, September would probably be about the latest date that we could begin, but we'd be hoping to get the entire cohort on board by September. So that's the process. And I always include this slide, and I just thought I would end with it today. Art can generate opportunity and access for the sharing of vital knowledge. We know this to be true, that we know that artists have a role to play in government, in our society, and we really are excited about this opportunity to work with you. So again, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. You can reach out to me at my email address, mcerrone@cityofsacramento.org, with any questions you might have about the job. And thank you.